Welcome to Math Mini Lessons. This is lesson 87, correlation or causation. Here's our CFS for today. We're going to be able to identify two variables in a situation. And using those two variables, we want to be able to accurately identify and be able to explain whether they represent a positive or a negative correlation. Pretty much we want to see what happens to one variable when the other one increases. So do they both increase? Does one decrease? That's what we're going to look for. Then to be able to accurately identify and explain whether or not the correlation is due to a causation or is it just a relationship. So is there a correlation or a causation between the amount of ice cream Sam is eating and the amount that Alex is eating? Well, we definitely notice they're both increasing, so there seems to be a positive correlation, but it doesn't mean that just because Sam eats ice cream, it causes Alex to eat ice cream. And that's what a causation would be, when one event makes another event or thing happen. Where with a correlation, it just means that we're noticing two things are happening in some way. So let's try to brainstorm a situation where you might have a positive correlation, but no causation. And then try to figure out, well, then what makes that thing happen? Did you know that when the amount of ice cream sales increase, so do shark attacks in particular areas of the United States? Yep. Take a look. This is actual real evidence, and you can see that the number truly spikes around May, June, July, and August. So definitely there seems to be a positive correlation. As one increases, so does the other. As one decreases, so does the other. The two lines are almost exactly the same. So causation or correlation. Again, correlation just means two things happen together, doesn't necessarily mean that one thing causes the other one to happen. And causation just means that one thing directly causes it to happen. So this is really tricky, and that means we have to think a little bit harder and try to really explain why two things are related to each other. And it's really important sometimes to do that extra research and experiment to make sure that there actually is a cause and effect relationship and not just a coincidence, or they're kind of related but they're not directly causing one another. So let's take away the shark, for example, and make something less dramatic. Sunburns. There is a correlation between the amount of ice cream consumed and the amount of sunburns experienced. And that also happened during those same times. But they don't cause one another. They just notice they both increase at the same time when we look at the numbers. The true cause, like why do we eat more ice cream in those months? And why are there more sunburns in those months? Well, because of the same cause, dry, hot, sunny summer weather. So it just makes sense that it is when there's hot weather, we tend to eat more ice cream because it's hot and it's a great way to cool down. And we get more sunburns when it's hot because there's more sun, more UV light, and we wear less clothing because it's hot. And so that's the causation, and that's the kind of thing we want to have when we're considering, is there a correlation? And if so, yes, does that mean there is a causation as well? All right, go into this guided practice. Here is your situation. A survey determined that students who spent more time doing geometry spent more time doing chemistry. So identify what are the two variables, explain whether there is a positive or negative correlation, and explain whether the correlation is the result of a causation. Hit pause and work on that situation. Great, so let's go over the reveal. Here are two variables. Remember, they are numerical. They are things that we can quantify and count. So for variable 1, it is the amount of time studying geometry homework or doing the geometry homework, and the amount of time doing chem homework. Okay, so those are our variables. So is it a positive or a negative correlation? It's negative. So they determine students who spent more time on Geo also spent more time on Chem. Both variables increase. So this suggests a positive correlation. Right, and remember when we talked about it on a graph, it just literally meant that as one was increasing, so was the other. So that's what we're seeing. So if we're looking at geometry and chem and the amount of time, as one increases, so does the other. All right, so is this a correlation or a causation? Does doing more geometry homework cause someone to do more chem homework? So that's what we're trying to figure out. So think about this. Does this make this happen? No. Doing more geometry homework doesn't cause or impact time on chem homework. So what could that be? Because they're not directly causing each other. One doesn't make the other one happen. They're not directly related. So there has to be something else that might be causing it. So what could it be? If you're in geometry, more likely in high school, you're probably in 9th or 10th grade. And that's about the same time when you're also taking chemistry. So it could just be the coincidence of that is the 9th, 10th grade curriculum. So it could just be that. It could also be in the beginning of the year, there's less homework. And as you get more intense, the amount of homework increases in the year. Sometimes teachers give less homework when there are big tests or exams like midterms. So that could also be a thing. So the amount of person who's directly providing the amount of homework is more likely teachers. So there could be just other things causing this to happen that don't necessarily have to do with being in a geometry class or doing geometry homework. And that's the kind of thinking that you want to see, that just because two things are happening, it looks like they're related, it doesn't mean they're both the cause. It could just be a coincidence, or it could just be another factor we haven't thought about yet. Well, that's it for today's lesson, Math Marvels. I hope you found it fun and enjoyable. Get some practice in. Ask those deeper questions and just try to imagine what else could be happening if there is not a causation. I'll see you in the next one, Math Marvels. Be well.